Cosgrove. The Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr Speaker, I want to firstly thank Mark Mitchell for his contribution. It was a measured contribution in the spirit of the non-partisan nature with which trade agreements between our two great parties and latterly other parties over many, many years, decades, have been dealt with. As for the last contribution, waste of time. David Parker, in his address, sir, did what I think the government should have done. And I'm a rabid free trader. I believe in free trade. I'm a part of a party that has been pro-free trade and has initiated, as Mr Bennett pointed out, sort of snide, in his snide way, initiated many free trade agreements, including China. And Mr Bennett is right that there are ISDS provisions within China, and that is a well-known fact. Maybe he's just come out from under the mushroom in the last couple of days and worked that out. But here I say to Mr Bennett is the difference. That when we negotiated the China Free Trade Agreement, specifically Phil Goff and Helen Clark, one, you did not see the outcry. You did not see the angst within the communities because as a government and through those two individuals, we brought communities with us. We kept them well informed. Now, I accept that you cannot, and it is naive of those who say that we can somehow negotiate an agreement in public. You can't. You don't negotiate wages in public. You don't negotiate trade or commercial deals in public. It is a nonsense to put that forward. But what you can do, and I am a little critical, or I'm certainly critical of the National Party on this one, and slightly critical of our commercial sector, you can talk about what has been, i.e. the China agreement and other agreements that have been. You can talk about, as Mr Bennett sort of, in his own weird sort of way, tried to articulate the notion of ISDS within the China agreement. And you can actually talk, given what has been and the benefits or the downside, but I would argue the benefits of, say, the China Free Trade Agreement, and you can make a case that if we got even a slice of 40% of world trade for our commercial sector and our people in New Zealand in respect of jobs and growth and wealth to exploit, that would be a good thing. You can generate those sorts of discussions. And I note, and I believe I was attacked at the time by the Green Party, which is sort of a badge of honour for me, I was the one, when I was shadow trade spokesperson, who asked Tim Grosser, will you ensure that similar provisions that exist within the China FTA that protect New Zealand's right, despite ISDS, to regulate and legislate in the public good, that similar provisions and safeguards, and will you fight for them and ensure that they are in the TPP? And the answer was yes. And the Green Party attacked me and said I was sucking up to the government for actually eliciting a commitment from them, but we'll work that one out in some other stratosphere, sir. I say, as Mr Parker did, that the reason and the only reason we are supporting this bill, which I have to say with respect, is a very simple bill, but it is very broad, far too broad in what it seeks to achieve. And there is, I do agree with the National Party that if this was adopted, it could well negate free trade agreements, and that is not a good thing for our country. But what Mr Parker has articulated is the ability to have a select committee that examines this very issue, effectively does what the government should have done years ago. And for Mr Bennett to get up to say that we've sort of come late to the debate on this is piffle. We have been asking publicly that the government articulate and discuss with stakeholders within the bounds of confidentiality and raise these issues and actually put the debate out there. So people could be indeed reassured. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe in the sort of trade bogeyman. And if you look at trade agreements, despite our green friends, throughout history, where you have open markets, where you have open closed economies, that does lead to better environment, labour and human rights standards and greater wealth for those people. Where you have developed countries who can actually access wealthy markets for their products and services. That does actually lift economic growth and standards of living. That, unless you live in a flat earth society, is undisputed. So the rationale for us supporting this simply to the select committee process is to allow a public debate. And over there, and I thank Mr Mitchell again for his contribution, it was measured, it was non-partisan. I conclude with this, slightly off target, sir, to place on record my thanks to Minister McCulley and the Prime Minister and the government for its support of our ambassador to the US, Mike Moore. who we know is recovering from some health difficulties, and I take this opportunity, sir, to briefly simply congratulate him. He has a job well done. His task was to get TPA to assist and to ensure TPA got through, fast track, because you can't have TPP without TPA, and he has done that job, and he is a person, a passionate free trader, and I would put his knowledge of this agreement and stack it up against anybody in this House, even Mr Grocer, he may be insulted by that, as a person who would know the credibility and integrity of this deal. He is a patriot, sir, he is a citizen of this country, and he is a believer in free trade. But let's not try and, have all the colourful weasel words. Let's take Mr Mitchell's example. We will support this for one reason and one reason only, to do what the government has failed to do, to engender a public debate so that people can actually examine this proposal for what it is.